don't have a problem telling someone to, fuck this. Like, I don't have a problem doing that.
No,
right?
you never have.
Yeah. So I guess for me, it would have been, it's kind of easy to be like, no, fuck Joss Whedon. Like, if he's going to be a dick, I don't really want to have anything to do with him.
Well, I also think about those stories, and then I think about like Brad Bird, who, made The Incredibles and Ratatouille and one of the Mission Impossibles, one of the really good ones, or James Cameron, and everything I've heard about them, and they fess up to it in these DVD special features from back when I was, obsessively watching this kind of thing. They admit to kind of being the 800-pound gorilla in the room and being like really forceful and sometimes mean, because they're after what they want. And just a little bit of acting that I did in school and then just in college and stuff, it seemed like a lot of directors just sort of work that way. It's almost like an emotionally abusive relationship. And I think with actors especially, it can be tricky because these are people who literally have to keep their veins open all the time to be able to deliver a performance, So you've got sensitive individuals to begin with. And then I guess what I'm saying isn't that people shouldn't be shitty. It's just that, I'm wondering, and I'm not saying like, oh, it's such a crime if, because all these guys I mentioned, even if they never work again, they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Their financial and their artistic legacies are pretty secure. But like, and so I don't know. I just, I do believe that people need to be respectful and they need to not be assholes. And maybe it can just be a culture shift. Maybe if somebody had stood up to James Cameron a little bit sooner
on the set of Abyss and was like, no, you need to stop.
Yeah. But, on the other hand, he pushes really hard. And that's the thing, like the end result, all of that effort shows up on screen. And so I don't know, like, is that just a personality, or is it, do you have to kind of be willing to be like an asshole to be successful at directing, or is that just because there's always been a toxic culture around it? And if it changes, then even the really talented directors who have a strong vision will have to learn to communicate it more politely.
I could see it going either way, but as you were talking about that, not that I wasn't listening to you, but it brought me back to, I was listening to you because it made me like connect to something like in my life. I have the other podcast, the Arlington Citizen Media podcast. And since COVID, I have definitely like stepped back and been more of just like a behind the scenes guy because I'm not leaving my house, but, and I'm letting my other two partners do more of the actual interviewing and stuff like that. But I would say that early on, I was probably Joss Whedon in that's like, there were times that I definitely was like, this is how it's going to be. I hope that I wasn't as big of a dick, and I hope that I've learned from that because I now see that it's better, in my opinion, to be, I think that you can fight for what you want, but there are ways to go about it. And there are ways, I think what you're saying is that we're going to have to learn how to communicate better those ways. And I hope that I'm making those strides. So if Rhodey and Amy are listening, I apologize for being an asshole early on.
A megalomaniac.
I hope that I'm more collaborative and open to ideas before. But also at the same time, like, they had never done podcasting before. So there was a lot of me like bringing all the information and all of the experience that I had. Not that I have a shit ton of experience anyway, right? It was really just yours and my podcast.
Yeah, but we did it for a long time.
We did, and I had the technical know-how to do all of it. So I also had a newspaper background as well. So I have some, at least in high school, which is like nothing really, but I had some sort of background to fall back on as far as asking questions, knowing how to frame a story. Knowing how to present the story in an audio format. And I think that I pushed that on them very passionately and forcefully. I made a nice word, but I think yours is probably more truthful if I'm being honest. But I think over time I've developed a way I don't know. I guess maybe it boils down to I saw myself as like I was the de facto leader and I was going to do things the way I wanted to. And as we progressed, I was like, oh, I don't necessarily have to do that. Like it shouldn't just be my way or the highway, right? Like I should be open to their ideas because they have good ideas, and especially as they got more experience and they got more comfortable in what they were doing, they were coming up, with better stuff than me in a lot of cases, because they started finding their own voice and their own. And I know podcasting and doing those kind of stories is not quite like filmmaking, where there is
putting on a show. I mean, it's collaborating on a work of art, and that's what film is.
Sure. So I think that yes, you probably do have people like that who gravitate towards those positions in film. But I think as we move forward, especially in creative work, you're going to see a culture shift where that's not going to be tolerated because it can lead to other things. I think is really what like people are going to they're going to put a stop to it now because like, yes, while Josh Whedon is just a dick right now.
Right.
Who knows if he's the next Harvey Weinstein, who knows if he's the next, whoever, I think you're going to see people put a stop to it because they're like, no, we're not here for that anymore. It's 2020.
I mean, I'm not part of the reason I didn't keep on directing films was that I didn't think I didn't have a big enough personality for it. I don't think also I'm not a people person. So it's like, I don't want to talk to all these people. I just want to tell the story. So books were my
You should have found a co-director so you could be like, and then like, yeah, right. And then the guy's like, okay, hey, can you go ahead and do it this way?
I needed my own Coen brother. Hamill brother.
That's going to be the name of the show, Hamill brother.
What'd you say?
That's going to be the name of the show, the Hamill brothers.
I mean, I'm not I don't think I'm a dick. I don't think.
I'm shaking my head no.
Okay.
For those of you who can't see it, which is everyone.
So, and I managed to write my book. I managed to get in, and get my stuff done, and without being a terror to, I think, anybody along the way. Just by virtue of like not being an asshole. So it's like, as an artist, I guess it's like, why should I worry whether Joss Whedon's in favor right now? It's like my relationship with his work is my relationship with his work. It doesn't, and I have to decide for myself how I feel about that. And it's a good thing that if anybody is being an asshole, because like, how many asshole bosses have you had? I've had
a ton. Exactly.
Yeah. If you like, you should be able to say this person is a bad boss.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I don't know where I get off defending dickheads. Like,
I don't think that it was necessarily defense. I do think that you brought up some salient points that strong personalities, especially like on a fucking film set of that magnitude, right? Like when you and I made that movie, you were on it was like the set was 5 people at the most. You weren't trying to corral 300 people and like 4 or 5 like A-list actors, who have their own egos and have their own way of doing things. I don't know. Like you brought up a really good point that sometimes it does take a strong leader to do that. But I do think you can be a strong leader and not be an asshole as well.
That's true. I haven't heard that Patty Jenkins is an asshole and Wonder Woman rocks. So
right, exactly.
Or Ryan Johnson for that matter. Like from what I understand, he's one of the nicest guys in the business, and every one of his movies is a fucking winner as far as I'm concerned. From Brick all the way to Knives Out.
There's Knives Out was so much fun. There is a lot of people who would disagree about The Last Jedi, and I am not one of them because you know that I'm a big fan of that movie. Let the Past Die was probably one of the best lines and deliveries of the entire sequel trilogy, in my opinion.
Yeah, of the whole 9 movies, really.
I would agree completely. And also, like, to me, like, it was like a moment in the theater where I was like, fuck yeah, let the past die. Fuck this shit.
Kill it if you have to.
Yes, that's the follow-up that also makes it really powerful.
I'm gonna watch The Last Jedi again soon.
Yeah, I think I may watch it tomorrow, actually.
And just pretend it's not that it is the last.
And that's
Star
it.
Wars movie.
There are no
I can't
more.
believe they never made a sequel. So weird.
Speaking of Star Wars, and to talk about our bi-weekly Clone War update, I am on season 5 now.
Oh, damn.
Ahsoka Tano, I hated her character, like, in the beginning. Like, I was not a fan. I was like, who's this little girl? And why is she so childish? But she was a child, right? She was a Padawan. Yeah. Like, but as I've gotten in, 13, exactly. Like, as we've gotten into season 5, like, she's out there fucking, like, helping, like, Saw Gerrera and the fucking rebels, which I had no idea that his sister, like, have you seen season 5 of the Clone Wars?
Yeah, but it's been a long time.
I'm going to spoil it for you then. I'm going to spoil it for you and anyone that's listening. If you haven't seen season 5, that's on you because it's like fucking almost 10 years old at this point.
Right, that's true.
But if you haven't, stop listening now. So, Ahsoka Tano goes to this planet who has been taken over by another king, and the Separatists come in, and like they're like essentially fomenting insurrection. The Jedis are, by teaching these people like guerrilla warfare. And Saw Gerrera is one of them, and his sister is another one of them, Steela. And so when you watch Rogue One, when Saw Gerrera dies, he shouts out, Steela! Right before and I had no idea that was, so when I was watching it again, because I was like, oh shit, I know this guy. This guy is the guy in Rogue One. And so I watched Rogue One again, I was like, oh fuck! And Steela dies, spoiler alert.
Why else would he be screaming her name?
Right, so like as he's about to die, he then says it. And I find it, that series, Anakin actually was the idea behind that. Like, he was the idea behind, like, let's arm these rebels on this planet. And Saw Gerrera then goes on to be a leading member of the various rebel factions. I know that he didn't ever come into the fold as far as, like...
The Alliance.
Right. But, like, he was one of the key players in the early rebellion against the Empire, which I think is wild that Anakin, or Darth Vader, essentially started the rebellion against his own empire later. And but back to Ahsoka Tano, like, she grew on me as a character, so much so that, like, I'm watching an episode with the younglings in her right now, and I'm fucking here for it because I like that character so much, and I'm so excited to watch Rebels and see more of her, and then watch Mandalorian and see even more of her.
So it is confirmed she'll be in season 2? I
mean, I think that's I know Rosario, that's the rumor, and Rosario Dawson said yes, or said yeah, she'd like to do it, and then was like, well, no, nothing's been confirmed. But I imagine that probably wasn't something Jon Favreau wanted to get out, like it should have been like a cool thing, like kind of like the same thing, right? When we were like, what the fuck? Who is this child? He looks just like Yoda. Right. It would have been even if we had not known that, and it had stayed a secret. How like crazy would it have been for like season 2, episode 1? To end of Mandalorian to end with Ahsoka Tano coming out, fucking lightsabers blazing, you would be like, "What the fuck?"
Is the episode you're watching now the one about the lightsaber crystals?
I just watched that one. I'm watching the one right after. That one was
so good.
It was so good. Like, I remember watching it being like, I literally when it started, I said, "Ugh, younglings, I don't want to watch this." And then they go, and I have you played Jedi Fallen Order?
Oh yeah.
That I was like watching it, and I was like, this all looks so fucking familiar, and I was like, holy shit, that's the planet from Jedi Fallen Order. Yep. And that's one of the things about the Clone Wars that I have really like loved, is that like you get to see all these other places that you hear about and you play in video games and all that, and it really brings it, like, in a crazy way, the Clone Wars cartoon brings the entire Star Wars universe together in like a way that I just. If you had told me that's what it was when it was like first airing, I'd have been like, "What? Shut up! It's a kid's cartoon."
Yeah.
But now I think it's probably one of the best things that Star Wars has ever done.
I would agree with that. You're making me want to go watch it right now.
You should. I'm going to watch it when we're done here. But I also heard, and this is all rumor and conjecture at this point, but I heard that Kathleen Kennedy might be out and that George fucking Lucas might be back in at Lucasfilm.
What?
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that. Where'd you hear that?
All over the place, man. All the fucking rumor mills are talking about it, how she's going to be out because Disney's like, which is wild to me because like Disney has made their money back and then